No more.
All right, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Doc and Caveman's NBA Draft Profiles. I'm Dr. Fantasy, and as always, here with the Fantasy Caveman. Today, we are going to be focusing on TyTy Washington, a 6'3", 197-pound guard who was a freshman last year at Kentucky. He averaged 12.5 points per game, 3.9 assists, 3.5 rebounds, shot 45% from the field, 35% from three-point range, and was an all-SEC freshman. So pretty solid year all around for TyTy. But Caveman, what are your initial thoughts on him?
Oh man, I mean, and I was just talking about this before we started. He might be the only point guard that we end up covering. That's how. Let's see. This class is definitely not loaded with point guards. I mean, if we're being 100% honest, I don't even know who the number 2 point guard is at this point in this draft class.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know offhand who would be the number 2 point guard in this draft class?
I mean, it depends, I guess, what your definition. Because even TyTy wasn't even always the primary ball handler at Kentucky. So if you're talking about like a true number, he's got the size of one. But if you're talking true number 1 point guard, because I wouldn't really consider like Dyson Daniels that. So yeah, I don't know how many true point guards you're finding in this class.
So yeah, that's good. I mean, he has that going for him. I mean, I like the number one thing that stands out to me, is just his overall ability to shoot the basketball. I mean the percentages don't really show it. I mean, only 35% from three, but I really think he has more upside shooting the ball, especially. I mean, he can shoot it in the pick and roll or off catch and shoot. I mean, I think he has that underrated shooting ability. I like his form. And then I mean, the other thing is, I mean, he's very underrated defensively, I feel. I mean, I think he plays very tough. Yeah, he plays with a lot of IQ. He only averaged 1 point under 2 fouls a game. Around a foul and a half a game. I think when you see a guy play this tough defensively like he did, and you end up do it without fouling, I mean that's gonna help him stay in games. I think a lot of guys that you see coming in that have this kind of effort and this defensive ability, I think you see them get into foul trouble as well, especially as a rookie coming into the league and kind of adjusting to the NBA rules. I think that's something. I don't think it's gonna definitely be a strength of TyTy's, and I love TyTy. I just love the first name. Maybe that's a strength of his. TyTy.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah.
It's definitely a strength is his name.
He just sounds like he'd be in the NBA, really.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's then. And you mentioned how he wasn't. You kind of mentioned he wasn't the primary ball handler at Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky isn't really known for having. I mean, how many primary ball handlers has Kentucky really? They do they really have a system that relies on one primary ball handler?
Not recently, yeah. I mean,
So
maybe like 10 years ago, but
that's what I'm saying. Like it's in recent memory, they haven't really been known for it. So I think if he's put in the system where he's asked to be the primary ball handler, I think that's something he's capable of handling. Like I said, in the last time I mentioned, he does a very good job at not turning the ball over. I mean, only 1.6 turnovers a game as a point guard. I mean, he still had a good, even though he wasn't the primary ball handler, he still had the ball in his hands a good amount and only average under 2 turnovers. I mean, can't ask for much better than that.
Yeah, and I don't have much to add, but yeah, I think it's a little bit. I don't want to say he was misused at Kentucky, but I just don't think that that's going to be the same role he has in the NBA. I don't really see him. I mean, I see him being the kind of guy that's going to be just like a second point guard off the bench that can lead a really effective unit. So that's where I see. Not to say he can't lead a first unit and he doesn't have that kind of ability, but I think if we're being realistic about it, that's probably where he's
Yeah.
going to end up in the NBA.
When he's on the court, he's going to be the primary ball handler.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I mean, I think he does have more ability than he showed at Kentucky to do that. Offensively, I saw a lot in terms of his catch and shoot ability. He was very good when he was off the ball at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
His pull-up three-pointer was not very good, so that's slightly a concern if he is a primary ball handler. But the big thing that definitely sticks out about his offensive game is his pull-up mid-range game, and his ability to drain a floater is kind of unmatched and very impressive at this point. And that's the number one thing that stood out to me in his offensive game. You mentioned his not turning over the ball. He's got a lot of speed in transition.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he is a fairly strong defender. I'm not going to say he's elite or he's average. He's definitely above average. So I would consider that a strength for any young guard, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, the one thing I will say is on the whole, I think he's an average shooter right now. I think he has the ability to be better, but I think there's some room for improvement. The biggest concern that I see offensively is that he avoids contact at the basket like it's the plague. And that's one of the reasons he tends to pull up or just go with a floater is so this was interesting. There was a 6-game stretch last year where he didn't attempt a free throw. I mean, that's kind of concerning to me. I mean,
Yeah,
that
a
is
little
him
bit.
blatantly not wanting to take any contact. And, you know, I think it'll come to a point if he's not more willing to take contact and get to the free throw line where that's great. You can make a floater, you can pull up, but it makes it a little more predictable as a defender where guys can start defending him that way. And I think that's the point that he's at right now is if he becomes too predictable and goes to the same two moves, it's going to be harder for him to score at the next level. So I do think he's got to work on being a little more creative because he's got some really strong elements, but that's one of those things. It can be worked on, but I think it's also kind of a mindset. If he's just the kind of guy where he doesn't want to take hard contact, I mean, it could be something that's challenging to address, but that's probably the biggest flaw I see in his offensive game.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of go to loss. I think a lot of it boils down to he's not very athletic.
Yeah, true.
And I think that's a big reason to why he either he struggles attacking the basket or chooses not to attack the basket is because he doesn't have the athletic ability to do so. I think that that's going to be the biggest thing that really caps him when we're talking about this is that's why what's really gonna like hold him back from being like really the primary like the point guard, the starting point guard on a really good team is that inability to be able to drive to the basket. I think that's what's gonna limit him to like we mentioned the primary point guard but be the backup point guard off the bench, be that kind of guy. The other thing, wanna like while I like his overall effort defensively, and he doesn't commit a lot of fouls. He does at times get caught ball watching, and he gets beat on a lot of like backdoor screens because he's ball watching, trying to play the ball instead of playing his man. I think that is something. Like I said, that's something it's not an effort issue with him. It's that's something. The aggressiveness on the defensive end is something that like it could be coached out of you. His that part of his defensive game. So I think he
Maybe he
goes
should take some of that energy and put more of it on the offensive end because he needs more
maybe
aggression.
maybe, but I'm just saying like at least like that's what you love about his defensive ability. It's not some like a la your favorite example of this James Harden. Unlike James Harden, it's not an effort issue with him. It's his defensive weakness is something that can be worked on and coached. So I think I think that's a big thing in his favor right there.
Yeah, a lot of that usually has to do with understanding spacing and defensive sets. So yeah, that definitely can be coached as long as you have a strong defensive-minded coach. Ideal fits. My personal favorite one is probably the Wizards.
I like it.
So I believe right now they don't have a lot of guards outside of Bradley Beal, honestly. I mean, they have Ish, who is pretty good, but I think they could use some more depth there, and I could see him effectively leading a second unit there. And I know it was one that I struggled with because
The problem, I mean, I thought about putting the Wizards down, but I'm looking at it. 10 is too high for him.
yeah, that's why. So the other one I have too is the Hawks. They don't really have a primary ball handler off the bench right now, and he could probably play alongside Trey pretty well.
Oh yeah. That was my number one. I mean, and they're picking, they're picking that they're picking at 16. I think he would definitely be an option for them at 16. I don't think that's a unreasonable spot for him to go.
A lot of people have the Knicks picking him. I've seen that a lot.
I mean, the only concern I have with the Knicks, other than the fact that it is the Knicks and
Yep.
that's
Fair.
where everybody goes to die, but my problem is I think with the Knicks is he'd be asked to do more. He'd be asked to do more playmaking and kind of be the guy that he doesn't have the capability of being.
Ouch.
I think I not saying, but no, like we mentioned his lack of athleticism. That that would really hurt him if he went to a place like New York where he'd be asked to do more than he's on, and he knows this. You mentioned that stretch where he didn't even attempt a free throw. Like, yes, I mean, I get it. I get why people would want him to go to the Knicks, but I don't love that at all for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. So, let's go to NBA comparisons then. I'll throw out the old school one first that I saw that I think is an interesting top end for him. That was Andre Miller. I think that's an interesting one. A guy that was a great playmaker. I don't think anyone considered him to ever be overly athletic. The modern one that I found was Darius Garland, which is also kind of an interesting one. My favorite one personally that I thought of personally was Reggie Jackson, who has led second units for a good number of years now. So I think he could be that kind of guy, being a great second ball handler coming off the bench. So Reggie Jackson's probably my primary one I'm going to stick with.
I see a lot of Reggie Jackson. I saw I saw a couple of Chauncey Billups comparisons.
I thought about it, but I didn't know if I could go there. I don't.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but a guy, and maybe that's just because he's playing in the NBA. He's played in the NBA Finals, but I don't hate the Derek White comparison. White comparison.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like I say, a lot of these guys, I'm just like, maybe I have a bit of recency bias and I like seen like, okay, I'm gonna compare this guy to a player on Golden State or Boston because they're in the finals, and I just watched them. Like, but yeah, I really like the I really like the Andre Miller one and the Reggie Jackson one as well. But yeah, I think when it comes down to I think he is going to be, and he's one of these guys. He is going to be around in the NBA for a very long time. I just think he has the overall defensive ability and the ability to be the top playmaker off the bench for a team. I think it's really something that's day one he's gonna have a role. And I think that's it. I think when you're looking at a lot of the guys that are being mocked in this range, anywhere from 14 to from the back half of the first round, so anywhere from 14 down to I've seen him go into mid-20s a couple times. But I think he might have one of the safest floors out of any of these players that are going in this range, because he's gonna have that he has a perfect role from day one. I think that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think the other thing that could help him is just the scarcity of true guards in this class, which you mentioned in the beginning. I mean, if you're a team and you're identifying that as a top need, I mean, that's going to draw a lot of interest towards him because I don't want to say is unquestioned or anything, but, he's probably going to be the number one true point guard on a lot of people's boards. So, you might
The
see
number 2 point guard. I'm trying to even look.
I was like, it depends on what list you look at. And
This mock that I'm looking at had the only other true point guard that I have going in the first round is Dalen Terry from Arizona going number 30.
Yeah, so I mean, there's really
and honestly,
so that could draw a lot of interest.
And no offense to Dalen Terry, but I don't think we're gonna cover him.
Wow, that's really harsh. Wow, I can't believe you said that, Caveman.
Ouch.
Okay, no, that's it. But yeah, no, that's why I could see TyTy Washington actually being, you mentioned 10 feels too high for him, but if the Wizards identify that as something they're concerned about, which that wouldn't be my primary concern if I was the Wizards, but if they believe that's a primary concern for them, or there's somebody later in the draft that views that as a concern, maybe they trade up a little bit just to make sure they secure a safe option. And I don't think there's any reason that's not a possibility. So, so that's it for TyTy Washington. We got plenty more to come, so make sure you guys check it out, and we will see you then.
Yep.